Hey there, viewers, and welcome back to Planet Cryos. I have another case here by Corsair. It is the 110Q mid-tower quiet ATX case. Let's check it out together. Alright, so yes, it is another Corsair case review or checkout, if you will. Seems like most everything that I've bought as far as cases go has been Corsair, which is not a problem. I actually like the quality of a lot of their products, so that's why I keep going back to them. Now, for this case, and the reason why I've got this is for a little retro build, if you will, coming up. Actually, right after this video, I'll probably be starting it. But you may not see these videos for another week or two from the time, bumping in the table here, from the time that I'm actually recording this. So, I'm going to be selling this actually with some older PC parts that are going to be good for another few years. But check out my next video coming up after this, but this is going to be specifically on this case. So yes, this is the Corsair 110Q, and it's the quiet case. They call it the quiet case because there's multiple panels in here that have a dense foam or quiet insulationing material behind the panels. So you got both the side panels, I believe the top, I know the front is. So I think there's 4 in total panels that have that ability to quiet it down. So if you're putting a few fans in it and coolers and whatnot, stuff that makes noise, it's going to help quiet down that noise. Now, I haven't specifically actually worked with this case before. This is the first time in hand. In comparison to the other cases, it is a little bit more of a budget case. At the time of this video, it's about $90, either from Corsair or off of Amazon. I will post the links down below, so you can check that out if you want. And basically to start, this is a mid-tower, like I said, so it will fit your mini ITX, your micro ITX, and your standard ATX motherboards. All right, so yeah, so let's start with the on the top of the case. We have our I/O ports here, which you get your power button. It's nice and clicky. You get 2 3.0 or 3.1 Gen 1 or 3.2 Gen 1 USB ports, and then you have your combo mic and audio, or mic and headphone jack combo, excuse me. And then you have your reset button. If we come around here to the front, you can see it's a pretty nice, clean front bezel. Basically, you just have your logo down at the bottom, and then you have a 5 1/4 inch bay for a DVD or a Blu-ray player that you can install up here, / CD-ROM. But yeah, that's nice and clean. No vents in the front, but you do get a vent on either side that is like this. Again, in the front, after I will disassemble this, but you do have a dampening, noise dampening fabric that's on the front of the panel here, and I'll show you that in a little bit. If we come around to the side here, it's basically just a clean side. Again, this panel and the other side do have noise cancellation material. If we come around to the back of the computer case here, we have an included 120 millimeter fan that cannot be sized up. You're basically stuck with a 120 millimeter fan in the back. You got your I/O shield cutout. You got your 7 expansion bay slots, and you got where your power supply will mount down here. So as we come around to the side here. This side panel comes off by 2 captive screws. You take that off and you just pull straight to the back and it comes off like so. This right here you can see is the noise cancellation material that they have on it. This is cut out because of the SSDs that are right here, and it just requires, I guess, that much more room. Kind of funny. I mean, I would have think they could have put 2 more millimeters or 3 more millimeters on the case width to keep this material all over the place, but nevertheless, that's what it's for, and that's what the cancellation material is for there. As we look on the inside of the case, we have our 2, like I just mentioned, our 2 2.5-inch SATA SSD mounting areas right here. We also have a spot for 2 3.5-inch mechanical hard drives down at the bottom. You can also mount your 2.5-inch SSDs down here also if you had more than 2 that you wanted to install here. This also comes with the box of probably zip ties and some power supply screws and motherboard screws. The other thing too is that this caddy, okay, or the mechanical hard drive tray can be moved in a couple different spots. I did go ahead and notice earlier when I was starting to take a look at this case a little bit, is that you can move it only in 2 other spots. I think one closer and one further away. But if you notice, if you tip the case over, you have the ability to slide it right here. So you just loosen these screws. You loosen these 2 screws and you can slide it with these slits in here. But this, they give you 3 holes, 2 that are really close to each other. I don't know why. And one that's further away. I don't know why they couldn't just put the slit in this one too. I mean, then you can just slide it. But I guess they had some reason, whether it's cost savings or structure-wise, but they could have put probably slit. And just to note that you do have your power supply filter right here, which you just pull down a little bit on it, it comes right out. Do be mindful that this case isn't as wide back here for cable management. So if you're thinking about putting a lot of extra stuff in this case, just know that it's going to be a little tougher to route a bunch of cables because the thickness between the panel and the back of the motherboard tray here is going to be limited to how thick the cables are, how much you can bundle them up, and zip time. It does have quite a few tie-down spots for your, to use with your zip ties. It's not as fancy as like the Corsair 4000 or the 5000 models, where you get Velcro tie downs and channels. It's not that fancy, but you do have the ability to route stuff in such a way. And as we come around to the other side, you can see that this panel is fully covered with the dampening material. This is capable of up to a 360 millimeter AIO, all-in-one cooler up front. You can only install the coolers up front. However, I do believe that they make 120 millimeter AIO, so you could mount your 120 millimeter AIO up front here. If you're just talking about one of those small ones, you basically have your tubing and connect it right there. So it'll be quick and easy. But yeah, you could put up to a 360 millimeter AIO right up front here. And again, what you can do with this is you can go up to the size of an ATX motherboard, which is the largest that this case can support. So for the front panel, the way that this comes off is with brute force. All you got to do is basically either come from the inside, maybe give it a little assistance, and push it out like that. So this, again, has that quiet dampening material on the inside. This is full, and the only way that this is... It has a little bit of mesh on the inside here. You can see it's kind of it's kind of coarse mesh. It's not going to filter out really a lot of dust or anything. But that is your intake if you install front fans or an AIO in the front. And again, you can see that this is the mounting for the front. It almost looks like you could mount the cooler on the front of this and the fans on the inside, or vice versa, however you want to do it, because of the depth of this. You'd have to toy around with it, but it kind of looks like you could do that. This is just held on by these little nubs. You can see those right there. And it's held on by 6 of those. One thing I did want to point out is that for the power supply, you do have these rubber dampeners down at the bottom. It's a little bit of a nice touch, just to keep from any kind of vibrations that the power supply may or may not make. Is going to quiet it down even more. So this is supposed to be a quiet case, and I think it's going to suit it pretty well. So as I wrap this up, just my sort of overall thoughts about this case and conclusion about it is that I do believe this is a great choice for a mid-tower case, especially if you want it to be quiet. Now, like I said, I don't have a personal experience of how quiet it is, but we will find out during my next video. Basically, there's only going to be a CPU cooler with a fan on it and the rear fan going. There's going to be no other fans in the case, so it should be fairly quiet. I think it's got nice features to it. It seems pretty sturdy even with the panels off. It doesn't have a lot of rock to it. I'm not cutting my fingers on the case itself. I think for $90, it might be a little bit expensive, because, we're still in the middle of this pandemic and lots of prices have gone up. But I think this is a good, $70, $75 case. Maybe even a little cheaper than that. It should be, but nevertheless, it's got your 2 USBs up top, which is great. You're not being cheapened out by getting rid of one of those USB connections or one of those USB ports up top, which then, your connection to the motherboard is basically can support 2, but you're only getting 1 out of it. So anyway, I digress on that a little bit, but this will support up to a 360 millimeter fan. Come on, or AIO. That's pretty nice, given everything. And I think if you go with the correct power supply, even if you went with a more compact power supply, but you really don't have to. But this will fit some decent sized power supplies, and modular or not modular. If you didn't go with a fully modular, get my words mixed up here. If you did not go with a fully modular power supply, it may benefit you as far as not having to hook up, cables, but you may have some extras, and you probably will have some extra cables that you got to deal with now, and you got to wrap them up, and be mindful that when you put the power supply in, there's no cover to the power supply, so it's going to be all exposed. You're going to be able to see it. Now, you're only going to be able to see it with the cover off, obviously. So until you take it off, there's no viewing panel here with a glass or a plexi window in it. So it's kind of like one of those things. Who really cares if you got some extra bundled up wires, tied up neatly down here? I guess it really doesn't matter. But yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on it. So anyway, tell me what you think of this case in the comments down below, whether it's just from my review or maybe you've had personal experience with this. And I'd really enjoy to hear what you guys think of this thing. Like I said, I can't even find a spot where it's going to really hurt me as far as being sharp edges. Nothing. So that is it. That's all I have for you. Don't forget to hit that like button, that thumbs up button. Don't forget to also comment down below, obviously if you wish. And subscribe. Hit that little bell icon next to the little subscription button. That way you can get notified of any of my future videos. Also, don't forget to share the video with your friends and family. And until next time, guys, take care.